We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Friday, and this is going to be an interesting show. We're going to talk about the debate last night. I'm actually recording this right after the debate, after watching the debate. So there's a lot to talk about here and a lot of people with different opinions and that sort of thing. So I thought it would be a good idea to incorporate once again the TikTok live. So I've got people coming in all the time talking, making comments, asking questions, and all that sort of thing. So I'm going to hit the button to go live and we'll see what happens here. But we'll continue with the podcast too. So the TikTok live will in fact be the podcast. The podcast will be the TikTok live. You know what the fuck I'm talking about. But no doubt many of you watched the debate. Without question, have some thoughts on it. I think the debate overall was disappointing, not only for Joe Biden, but for Donald Trump. I think ultimately Donald Trump showed who he was, and that's not going to work for him. At the same time, Joe Biden, when he first came out, it was a little troubling. When Joe Biden first stepped on the stage, his voice was weak. He didn't seem real strong. We're finding out now that he had a cold, but I'm not interested in excuses. You were there, you set this up, you got to do what you got to do. But when Joe Biden first came out and started talking, I thought, oh shit, we got a problem. Now, the thing with Joe Biden is he got stronger as the night went on. It's like he found a groove, or he finally caught some traction. But even still, he came off as weaker than what we would hoped he would be. See, here's the thing you got to understand, and this is where the Trumplafucks fail. Um, the thing about it is if you're going to go against somebody like Donald Trump, you really got to match the energy. It's what I've talked about before, kind of what I do with the Rational Boomer. It's always been the Democrats laying back, being the bigger person. Sometimes you got to get in their face and fucking smack them in order to compete. Now, if anybody looked jacked up today, it was definitely Donald Trump because he was louder and clearer than you normally get used to seeing him. However, everything he said was a lie. He never answered a single question. He was always trying to go back and nail Joe Biden. It was pretty horrific. It was pretty horrific what Donald Trump did in terms of his answering his questions. Um, yeah, Gray Captain and some of the others are out here saying, "Don't talk to the trolls. Don't bother with them. They're nothing but a distraction, and don't bother with." Um, Joe lost, you know it. He answers like he's supposed to. Let me explain to you something. Donald Trump said something in this particular debate. He said, I did not have sex with that porn star. Stormy? E. Jean Carroll had a pretty good luck suing Donald for defamation of character. You ought to get her lawyer and sue that motherfucker for another $500 million. Anyway, people are all upset because Joe Biden wasn't as strong as they'd hoped. The comparison, if you're talking about optics, Donald Trump looked more vital in the fact that he was louder and he um, uh, kept on ranting. As time went on, Joe Biden got a little stronger, but he still sounded weak, and that was a problem. Everybody's saying Trump or Joe lost. Okay. Let me remind you, Donald Trump has been impeached twice, indicted 4 times, convicted 34 times, found liable for rape. He's he's the worst candidate in the history of the presidency. And the fact of the matter is, if we've got Democrats out there whining and going, oh my God, what's going to happen? Just fucking relax. This is a long war. I'm disappointed with the way Joe Biden came out here. And hopefully they can rectify that situation. But if you take away the optics and you look at what is said, Joe Biden made some good points, some coherent points. Donald Trump did not. He kept ranting about the border. He kept ranting about uh, the J6 Patriots. He never answered a question that was asked to him. So if you want to talk about content, Joe Biden killed him. If you want to talk about optics, you might want to give it to Trump. But the fact of the matter is, everything Joe said was true, and he had the receipts to back it up. Everything Donald Trump said was a lie, like, Roe v. Wade means you can abort a child after birth. That's fucking ridiculous. That's a lie. Hold on. Let me answer some questions. I'm a Democrat and I'm proud of it. Yeah. I don't want to hear Democrats whining and crying because it didn't go the way they expected. Uh, I think in terms of content, Joe won. I think in terms of optics, Donald Trump looked a little stronger because of the circumstances, but I want you to be careful. The reason Donald Trump has the followers he has is because he's loud, bombastic, and obnoxious. And for whatever reason, people perceive that as strength, and that is not strength. But if you're silly enough to be caught up with that, then you're doing exactly what Trump-la-fucks are doing. Absolutely doing what Trump-la-fucks are doing. Jumping on the bandwagon of somebody who is just a loud, obnoxious, bullshit human being. He said some pretty bad things out there, and he wouldn't answer a simple question. Let's go to some questions here. Trump never answered a question. Jesus, absolutely. He never answered a question. What's the point of a debate? It's a matter of telling people what you've done or what you haven't done. And Donald Trump couldn't explain anything. He lied constantly, which is what he does. He got flustered toward the end when Joe called him out on some things. Let's see here. Trump is nuts. I couldn't watch it because I hate the sight of him. Well, it was a tough thing to watch. It's always tough to watch Donald Trump talk. Keep in mind, as much as you may think, if you Trump-la-fucks think he won this debate, remember, in about 2 weeks, he's going to be sentenced for 34 felony convictions. Let's see how that goes. Peace and Love says, peace and love and comment says, I feel like Biden was very irritated and upset with DT, was so blatantly lying. It was hard to watch. You know what's interesting? One of the things I have the most problem with that debate is what CNN did when they handled this debate is exactly the problem we had when Joe or Donald Trump became president. They allow Donald Trump to stand up there and say whatever he says. And then he's not called out for it. They just allow him. The media allows him to flat out lie and say things that are untrue or even dangerous. And they just let it go because they enjoy the shit show. Now, I know this is a debate, and Joe did call him out on many of these things, but you got to stop giving this guy a platform. He's a dangerous human being, and everything he says is a freaking lie. Lisa Kay says, I agree. I was a bit disappointed, but the alternative is not acceptable. The moderators were horrible. I'll agree. And let's be honest, CNN has been leaning more to the right than to the left as of late anyway. I wasn't expecting a lot out of Dana Bash and Jake Tapper. I used to like those people until they got this new administration within the company, and that's more right leaning. So now they've had to kind of adjust what they're saying. They once were fairly honest about what they do, but CNN does have a little problem with that. Let's see. I couldn't watch, but I heard it did not go well for Joe. Is that true? I'll tell you this. When it started, like I said, when it started, I thought, oh shit, here we go. Because Joe came out kind of weak. His voice was kind of weak. He was kind of stumbling and stammering around. And I thought, what the fuck is going on here? We know Joe's more capable of better things. As time went on, he kind of got in a groove and he was better. But again, the energies don't match, and that makes it harder to look at Joe Biden winning this thing. The fact of the matter is nobody won this, because as much as some people might think Donald Trump was strong, he said a lot of things that the Republicans did not want him to say. And that's going to hurt him ultimately too. Trump lies. That's all he does. Biden was a bit slow to begin with. I heard he's got a cold. Yeah, I heard he's got a cold too. But I'm going to tell you this, whether it's Joe Biden or Donald Trump, don't tell me you have a cold. I don't want to fucking hear excuses. You decided on the debate. You're going to come in there and be as strong as you can. Look, from the beginning, I've said, I think Joe Biden's too old. But that's not the question here. That's not the question here. You've got two choices. You've got Joe Biden, who's old and slow, and you've got Donald Trump, that is a bomb waiting to go off to destroy this country. Which one would you go with? I mean, I've said it before. I made this analogy. It's like going into the doctor and you've got a choice for the doctor to tell you either you've got a sprained ankle or Ebola. That's the difference between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. You may not like Joe Biden, but here's the deal. If you want younger people, if you want better things in this country, you're going to have to go through the process just the way it worked out. If you vote for Joe Biden, ultimately you will have your choice to get younger people in here in 2028 and even before then during the midterms. If you vote for Donald Trump, all that is going to be taken away from you. You're not going to have that freedom. So you may have to hold your nose for Joe Biden up to a point and vote for him, but at least you'll have the opportunity and it won't be taken away from you like it would be with Donald Trump. Let's see. Too bad we couldn't scoot Hakeem Jeffries in that seat. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'm thinking in 2028, Hakeem Jeffries might be a great opportunity for a presidential candidate. There's any number of them, Gavin Newsom, whoever. But this is what we've got. It may not be optimal. It may not be what you like. So you got to pick the best choice so you can get to where you want to go to, as opposed to getting shut down completely like you would with Donald Trump. Blondie says, I'm shocked at the display from both. We must act urgently. He doesn't have the mental capacity. Who does? Donald Trump or Joe Biden? Joe Biden is slow. Donald Trump is fucking nuts. He is a danger. Joe Biden is smart enough to have a lot of people around him to run this government. Donald Trump thinks he can do everything and anything, and he won't listen to anybody. You got two choices. You got Donald Trump and Joe Biden. If you don't like either, then you got to pick the one that's the safest bet. And Donald Trump is never a fucking safe bet. All right. Let's see here. Now, we don't have to vote for him. You're not our dictator. Sorry, it's our vote. Well, yeah, you can vote for Donald Trump. You'll be on the wrong side of history and you're going to lose. So go ahead. Trump embarrassed. Fuck, it's coming in pretty fast here. What would happen if Joe decided to drop out? Yeah, I don't think that's a good idea. I mean, we've gotten this far. We're this close to the election. I think it's more likely Donald Trump will drop out before Joe Biden. Someone says, hard watching Joe stumble was excruciating watching Trump lie. Absolutely. Now, I will tell you, Joe stumbled a lot in the beginning, but toward the end, he got stronger. Not strong enough, but stronger. I'm not sure what that was about, whether it was the cold or he needed to warm up or whatever. To be perfectly honest with you, I think his team kind of fucked up. They over prepared him. He had so much going on that he was trying to get all this information out. And I think it was difficult with somebody of that age to put it all together. You know, if it was somebody younger, like a Hakeem Jeffries, it would have filleted Donald Trump. But somebody says he was nervous, maybe. And you know what? I wouldn't have said that under normal circumstances, but that's what I was thinking too. It seemed like Joe was nervous. He felt like this was, I don't know. You don't go into these things unless you're absolutely certain and absolutely confident. And I don't think he was at first. Um, Once again, the Trump-la-fucks out here, just disregard them. There's no point in even listening to them because you're not going to get anywhere. Let's see here. I think the stammer gets going, it gets worse. Public speaking wise. Yeah, I think so. Joe knows what is on the line if he loses. Yeah, he does. And he's got kids and grandkids. I'm watching Biden after the debate gathering, and his voice is much stronger. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. I have to blame his team for preparing him or setting a strategy. If that was the strategy, that was the wrong strategy. Do you think the time was too late in the day? No, I don't think that anything like that. Donald Trump, I want so much to be a dictator, and the people that want a dictator will for crazy. I don't know. I'm still voting for Biden. My dad has stuttered since a child, and at 80, he has to think to speak. Yeah, I mean, when you're 80 years old or 82 years old, things are just slower. And, we knew that. We knew that all along. I was surprised Donald Trump came out as strong as he did. I have to wonder if he wasn't jacked up on something. But the fact of the matter is Donald Trump spoke loud and long, but he never said anything. He never answered a single question. In fact, when he was asked a question, he went back to try to rebuke what Joe Biden said. He was absolutely silly. For Joe Biden or for Donald Trump, it was absolutely embarrassing, and he doesn't realize it. I think the Republicans do realize it. They'll try to play off on Joe's condition to try to cover for the facts and the embarrassment that Donald Trump gave in this performance. Um, the bottom line is nothing gets resolved here. Uh, Joe Biden didn't live up to what we'd hoped for, and Donald Trump was everything we'd expected, was an absolute shit show. Um, it all comes down to moderate voters and young voters in swing states. I would like to see the polls. Fuck the polls. Don't worry about the polls. The polls are never right. They weren't right in 2016. They said Hillary would win. They weren't right in 2020. They said Donald Trump would win. They weren't right in 2022. They said there would be a red wave. The polls don't mean anything. I just don't even listen to the polls. The comment about Hunter should take Trump out. SEAL Team 6 needs to visit Trump. Well, I got to tell you what, if there's immunity given to the president, Joe Biden gets it too. So why not send SEAL Team 6? Trump's deep hate for those that go against him shows in his eyes. Yeah, you could see it in his face. He was getting flustered. He was getting angry, and he was trying to hold his insanity in. And it started to creep out there from time to time. It was interesting. I was waiting for him to snap, and he didn't quite snap, which I'll give him credit for. Let's see here. If Biden is replaced, it should be with Hillary. Bet she'd win now. Look, man, that's nice to say, but that's not going to happen. Unless Joe keels over, that's not going to happen. And the fact of the matter is, unless Donald Trump has something emotional or physical happen to him, he's not going to be taken out either. But the big difference is Donald Trump has 34 convictions hanging over his head. His money's being taken away. He was liable for rape. All of that is hanging over his head. None of that is hanging over the head of Joe Biden. I'm devastated with Biden's performance tonight. Listen to me. This takes a long time. And this frustrates me when somebody comes and sees something like this and they go, oh my God, it's over. It's over. Fuck that. Are you a fighter or are you just going to curl up in the corner and die? Just fucking relax. You almost sound like Joe Biden. Hold on. Right now, a little confused. Oh, pal, I'm not confused. In fact, I will tell you what, any Trumplefuck out there wants to debate, I'm more than happy to put you on my podcast. All you have to do is email me at rationalboomer@gmail.com. You email me and debate me. We'll find out how confused I am. I've had Trumplefucks on the show before, and you know what? It didn't go well. One of them even switched to being a Democrat now, so fuck that. Um, Hold on a second. Joe was a disaster. Be honest. Weekend with Bernie. It wasn't a disaster. It wasn't good. Donald Trump was a disaster. what he talked about with abortion, the fact that he said he didn't have sex with Stormy Daniels, the fact that he used a Palestinian slur against Donald or Joe Biden, that was disastrous. Let's see here. When you vote for Biden, not having an audience was the wrong thing to do. I disagree. And the moderators let him say it. Yeah, that's what I was going back before. Um, what happened on that stage is exactly what's happened since 2016. The media allows him to go on there and lie, flat out lie, just outrageous lies, and they don't fact check him. If you're doing that as a media outlet, you're doing a disservice to the people of this country. And I expect that out of the left side media, the center media, and the right side media. The media is the big problem in this country. That's why we're divided. Every outlet you listen to gives you a different story. And that's why nobody can agree on anything, because nobody tells the facts completely or totally. They, they tell their own stories. And that's why we have divisiveness in this country. Um, so the debate is just the debate. We got a lot of things coming yet. I don't think Joe Biden was a disaster by any means. I think he could have been stronger. I think he could have been better early on. I was a little concerned about it. But if I'm a Republican and I heard what Donald Trump said, understand something. Those cuts, those clips in that debate are going to be in commercials between now and November. Real, God damn it, this is coming in fast. Real man says, I agree with you, sir. The moderators will not correct Trump with his lies. Yeah. And that is news people, alleged news people, not doing their job. I mean, they'll do it in normal situations. Lately, they started to fact check him and cut him off and all that stuff, but they didn't do it here. Jimmy Jam says, Joe did terrible, Mike. No, he didn't do terrible. He didn't do as well as we hoped. See, this is what I don't understand. You don't like it because Joe was slow and maybe stuttering and that sort of thing. Donald Trump lied at every turn. He said some ridiculous shit, some proven fact checked lies. And you say Joe Biden did bad, but you don't say Donald Trump did bad. Donald Trump did horribly. When we're talking about facts and information, Donald Trump is a fucking failure. Um, let's see here. He stammered because he was tired, but he spoke about policy. I'm making no excuses for Joe Biden. Joe Biden should have come out there as strong and direct and matched the energy and fought back. There were some missteps by Joe Biden's team at getting him ready and what Joe Biden did when he stood up there. What Joe Biden needs to do now is do a lot of speaking engagements and go after Donald Trump. A lot. Get his voice out there, get his message out there, and just change the narrative. Because the only thing Joe Biden really showed tonight that I think was problematic was that he didn't give the impression that he was strong. And that's what people need. They need somebody who's going to be strong and fight back. He didn't give that vibe today. He wasn't doing that. And that's wherein lies the problem. Um, is Gavin Newsom available? I, yeah, there's a lot of people that could be running for president, but that's just not in the cards right now. Like I said, unless either one of these keel over and die, if either one of those keel over and die, that's the only time something's going to change, or at least get sick or infirmed in some way. That's the only way these candidates are going to change. It's real easy to say, well, let's just put in Gavin Newsom. Now, I'm not saying Gavin Newsom wouldn't be a good candidate, but not this time around. We got what we got. We got to deal what we have. And if you don't like Joe Biden, please tell me how you're going to choose Donald Trump and risk our democracy and risk the safety in this country. Um, God, you know what? I'm seeing all these people whining and crying. Oh, Joe Biden did terribly. Oh, it's over now. I don't want to hear that from you people. If that's how you live your life, where you just cave at any kind of problems or anything that you perceive as a problem, you're never going to win anything. You're angry with Joe Biden because he wasn't strong enough. So you're ready to say, oh, it's all over. Who's not being strong now? This is a fight. That was a battle. The war is still raging, and we're going to win this war. There's no question about it. Donald Trump is by far the worst presidential candidate in the history of this country. I mean, think about it: 34 felony convictions, 4 indictments, 2 impeachments, found liable of sexual assault. He claims he didn't sleep with a porn star. Now, what presidential candidate in history ever made that comment in any speech or debate? Please, motherfucker. Um, Tell me why he is my life was great, my stock market was great, my retirement was great. Yeah, that's what Donald Trump said. He said it's the greatest economy in history. Well, that's funny because the economy is better than anything Joe Biden or Donald Trump ever had. The economy is at record levels. The stock market is at record levels. It's just a flat out lie. And see, the problem is Donald Trump can say something and his dumb fuck followers say, oh, that must be real. Here's a guy that's a pathological fucking liar, and they believe every word he says. Donald Trump is a joke. Um, Joe Biden and his team made a calculated mistake here. I don't know if it was a strategy or Joe Biden wasn't up for it. It wasn't a good choice, but he didn't lose because Donald Trump lost just based on facts and information. Let's see here. Well, it sounds like you believe every word that Biden said, just just like I used to. It's not a matter of believing what Biden said. You just have to look at the facts. You maybe try to Google a little bit. Let's look at the stock market. Is it at record levels? Yeah, it is. And who says so? The stock market. Is there 16 million new jobs because of Joe Biden? Yeah. Look it up with the Labor Department. Did Donald Trump lose 2.5 million jobs while he was in office? Yeah. Look it up with the Labor Department. And then he'll say, well, it was because of COVID. Well, let me tell you something about COVID. COVID was neglected. He was negligent with COVID. He told us it was a hoax. It was fake. It would go away. You could drink bleach and it would go away. The reason COVID got as bad as it did and the economy went down is because Donald Trump was not doing his job. He was not doing what a president should do. So he can kind of blame the economy toward the end of his term on COVID. But it's because of COVID and the way he handled it why we were in this situation. So as far as I'm concerned, the economy, that's on Donald Trump's back as well. Um, a lot of people don't like me here. Oh, wow. You know what? You can keep calling me names and do whatever you want. I don't care. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. The whole Trump-la-fuck regime is an embarrassment to society. Um, let's see here. I had a feeling this was going to get a little crazy in here if I did this, but I said I would, and I did. Trump lied the entire debate. Absolutely. They call names because they don't have anything intelligent to say. And again, I'll remind the Trump-la-fucks. If you think Joe Biden's feeble, if you think I'm feeble, you're more than welcome to email me at rationalboomer@gmail.com. Tell me you want to be on the show. I'll have you on tomorrow. We'll have a whole hour and I'll let you talk and we'll see how it goes. We've had a few of you come through. Didn't go well. Um, Hold on a second here. Not calling you names, just Trump did not tell people to drink bleach. He did talk about bleach. Okay. There's videotape of it. So If you want to believe that, that's up to you. We know what was said. Trump said a lot of things that you claim never happened, but there's video of it. How does Biden recover from this poor performance? Well, it wasn't a completely poor performance. You're going off the optics. As far as telling the information and toward the middle to the end of the debate, he got better. Um, it didn't go as well. The problem is everybody thought, including me, thought that he would come in there and wipe Donald Trump out and Donald Trump would lose his shit. He was on pretty decent behavior for Donald Trump, but that still doesn't suggest that he didn't get unhinged because he went off on topics I'm certain he was not supposed to go off on topics about. Um, you can talk about the optics. Joe Biden didn't look strong. Um, okay. But what about the content? What about the content? Donald Trump is a 34-time convicted felon. He is a pathological liar. He's been sued for lying. He's been sued for defamation of character to the point where he owes over $500 million. And the dumb fuck keeps doing it. Joe's not in order, but see. Joe's not in order, but he knows the policy. Yeah, exactly. I tell you what, had this been Obama or Hakeem Jeffries, it would have been a different story. Um, those of you that think, oh, it's over now because Joe didn't come out strong enough, please, please calm the fuck down. Let's see. If Trump wasn't running, Biden wouldn't either. Biden's trying to keep the con man out. Yeah, well, that's what he said. You know, when he first ran in 2020, he said he's a transitional president. Mean what that meant to say is he'd be there for 4 years because of his age, and then he would hand it off to somebody else. It wasn't until Donald Trump decided to run again where he felt like he had to go there because he's proven he's beaten Donald Trump. Whether that was a good choice or not, I don't know. But that's what he was thinking, and that's why he did it. He probably should have stuck to the transitional president and put Kamala or somebody else in there. But that's not what happened. You can't deny one thing. Whether you like his performance during the debate, Joe Biden has been the most productive president in the history of this country. Everybody comes here and says, oh, what has Joe Biden ever done? Well, he did the infrastructure bill. Donald Trump spent 4 years talking about infrastructure, never did a goddamn thing. He tried to get rid of the ACA, but he never had a plan to replace it, even though he said he did. He was never able to present a plan. Joe Biden has the CHIPS Act. He has the COVID relief bill. Nobody has done more as a president in the first 4 years in the history of this country. And that's while the Republicans were pushing back against him and trying to stop at every turn. So um, the thing about it is it's an easy choice if you're an intelligent person. If you're going to get caught up in fears and crying and whining, then just sit down and stay out of the way and let the big people fight this out. Biden should have said, I fired you. Yeah, he should have. Joe's handler kept him up too long prepping for the debate. Yeah, I think there was a certain amount of over preparing for this. Um, I think people got nervous. They saw what was involved in this situation and they worked too hard. I think if you just informed Joe of the facts that he needed to know and just let him do his thing, he probably would have been done a lot better. Anything Trump passed was through executive order. Yeah, that's right. Trump, well, he passed the tax credit, and he kept crowing about passing the tax credit. Well, what he did was pass a credit to the rich for $200 trillion and crumbs to the middle class. The tax credit to the rich was forever, and the tax credit to us was temporary. In fact, those tax credits, however minimal they were, have been over for a while now. So now we're all paying more in taxes because of Donald Trump. Um, Says he didn't talk enough about abortion. You know what? In this whole debate, I will tell you the thing I'm most disappointed in, and it's not Joe Biden, it's the fact that these moderators didn't force them to talk more in depth about the real issues, like the abortion issue. Um, Donald Trump wasn't made to own anything with the abortion issue. And that's one of the big issues in this campaign. I'll be perfectly honest with you, just the overturning of Roe v. Wade and Donald Trump embracing it and saying he was responsible for it, that's enough to lose an election. You got to remember 75% of this country support Roe v. Wade. Donald Trump just told them we took it away. We're going to give it back to the states. Well, that's bullshit. That's absolute bullshit. That's just a talking point he pulled out of his ass that doesn't mean anything. Give it back to the states. So now, when we are on the podcast and I have Old Soul on the podcast, we hear these horror stories about women in states that need reproductive health care, but they're in a place where there is where abortion is illegal. So they got to travel out of state, stay with Old Soul or somebody else to get reproductive health care. Make no mistake, the Republicans, whether it be the Senate, the House, the legislators in the state, or Donald Trump himself, this is a war against women and children. And you know what? Women and children are dying. I'll give you a fact to think about. In Texas, since the abortion ban took hold there, infant mortality, infant death has raised by 13%. And they don't even give the facts of how many women have had to go to the hospital or been turned away at the hospital because of these draconian fucking rules and regulations and laws. The Republicans are at war against women and children. And if you support that, then vote for Donald Trump. If you support women and children and their safety, well, then your only choice is to vote for Joe Biden, whether he seemed active or did what you wanted him to do. The fucking moderators never made Trump answer a fucking question. Exactly right. You ask somebody a question and he doesn't answer the question. What you do in that situation, if you're a moderator or a reporter, you say, Mr. Trump, you didn't answer the question. What's the answer? He wouldn't answer it again. You keep asking it until he answers it. And if he doesn't answer it, then he has to take on the embarrassment of looking like a fool, which he did. Childcare never got answered. Well, I will tell you this. Joe Biden did increase the childcare taxes, the child taxes. Donald Trump did not. You notice something about Donald Trump when he was talking about NATO or he was talking about all these other issues that are international related. It was all about money. They didn't give enough money. We're going to hold them over the fire because they didn't give enough money. What you have to understand when you're a president of the United States, it's not about money. It's about safety. It's about decency. It's about treating people properly. Donald Trump doesn't give a fuck about treating people properly. He cares about money. And if you support that, well, then vote for Donald Trump. But you're a dumb motherfucker if that's what you're going to do. All right, we're moving through the thing. I got this weird thing with TikTok. All of a sudden, the comments go away, so I can't see anything here. And I got all these emojis and shit coming up, and I appreciate that. I don't even know what they mean, but I appreciate you doing that. The bottom line is people put the whole kit and caboodle on this debate, and that's not the case. Remember, Donald Trump is going to be sentenced for 34 felony convictions in 2 weeks. What's that going to do? What's he going to do? Why did they not bring up the mass shootings, lack of gun control, or bump stocks? Yeah, that's exactly right. There are so many things they could have talked about. They had 90 minutes to do it, and these moderators didn't take it anywhere it needed to go. Joe's performance, not optimal. Donald Trump was unhinged and crazy, but those moderators did a very fucking weak job. And I'm not even saying they were biased against Biden because I won't, that's not true. It's just that they did a shitty job. What's the likelihood of Gavin Newsom stepping in? I keep getting people asking me this question. Are you, that's ridiculous. That's not going to happen. You may want that to happen, but it's not going to happen. We're 5 months away from the election. We've got what we've got. You may not like it, but that's what it is. You're going to have to make the choice of, do you want a crazy fucker that's going to take away democracy, or an old man that's a, a little slower than you would like them to be? Not a great option, but that is your option. And unless something tragic happens to Joe Biden and Donald Trump, that is going to be your choice. It's not like you can say, Joe's going to step out. We're just going to plug somebody else in. That's fucking ridiculous. I mean, if it could be done, that would be fine, but you can't do it and expect to maintain the momentum that we currently have. Tirana says, old guy with morals, treasonous, cheating felon. Yeah, that's the choice. Exactly. I'm still Joe Biden. At least he recognizes the truth. Yeah, absolutely. I like this one. They say Biden is crushing the economy. How exactly? How is he crushing the economy? You see, I always ask that question of people who say that, but they never have an answer. Give me a specific detail, a data point that tells me he's crushing the economy, because the stock market is at record levels. Unemployment is at lowest levels. We've got jobs being created by the millions, 15 million in 3.5 years. Where is it happening? It's really easy to say this, that something is happening when you have no facts, but that's the problem. And that's the fatal flaw of Republicans. They spew shit, but they have nothing to back it up with, like, oh, Joe Biden took a bribe. Well, where's the evidence? They've been working on that for 2 years and haven't found one shred of evidence. Now they let it go and they're on to something else. Let's go get Hunter. Let's go get Mayorkas. Let's go get Merrick Garland. These motherfuckers fail at every turn. They always fail. It's absolutely silly. Pick the person who doesn't surround himself with felons who are his puppeteers. Well, that's a good choice. Um, let's see here. I thought Biden could have done better, but he answered the question. Trump said all he wanted. Yeah, Trump was just trying to fuel the flames of the hate amongst the Trumplafucks. He never said anything. He never, he lied like, oh, we're an embarrassment now, but when I was in, they respected us. Quite the opposite is true. And all you have to do is ask anybody in other countries. I get people coming to my podcast, sending me emails from other countries like Canada, Australia, Ireland, and they're all terrified at the prospect of Donald Trump becoming president because they know it's going to affect them ultimately. The world is hoping and praying that Donald Trump doesn't win. And I'll tell you this, he will not win. Okay, somebody's talking about inflation and cost of living and gas. What causes inflation? Do you think a president causes inflation? No, what caused the inflation, and I'll say it very simply, COVID, which Donald Trump is responsible for, is causing the inflation. It caused a supply chain problem. And then when we got out of COVID and the supply chain problem got better, all these greedy corporations said, look, man, we're getting all this money. Why drop it back now? They've just maintained these high prices, even though they could drop it back, even though their costs have gone back. And if you don't believe me, just look at their record fucking profits. They're grifting this country. They're taking advantage of the people of this country. And it's because Donald Trump allowed them to do. And if he gets back in, he'll continue to allow them to. His idea is tariffs and that's how he's going to get rid of income tax. The fact of the matter is, with tariffs come inflation, because I don't think Republicans understand how tariffs work. If you go to China and say, okay, you're going to sell these cars and we're going to give you a 10% tariff, you think China's taking the bite on that? No, of course they're not. What they're going to do is raise the prices of their cars 10%, and then you're going to pay it. You're going to pay it. That's what happened. That's what will happen. And that's why any economic expert has said Donald Trump and his economic plan is absolutely a disaster. I really love the fact how Donald Trump kept saying that, first of all, that he brought the prices down on insulin and such. There was one company that agreed to do it when he was in office. When Joe Biden got into office, he got all the companies to do it. So for Donald Trump to take credit for that is absolutely ridiculous. He also says Joe Biden is trying to kill Medicare and Social Security. Well, we know for a fact that in Congress, in the House of Representatives, the Republicans have voted about doing away with Medicare and Social Security. They voted for it, and it was at the direction of Donald Trump. So to say that is silly. If you listen to Donald Trump and you believe Donald Trump, you're a fool. You're a fool. The Republican Party, hold on. I'm having trouble keeping up with this. The Republican Party in general wants less government involvement, which includes Social Security. Well, it's funny. Republicans say we want less government, except for the fact you want the government involved in abortion and reproductive health care. You want that in there. You want the government involved in the war on guns. They don't, I've said this before, they claim to be conservative. They're not conservative. The Republicans, when Donald Trump was in office, there's never been an administration that raised the debt more than Donald Trump and the Republicans. That's not conservative. The idea that they want smaller government, that might have been the case back before Ronald Reagan, but that's not the case now. They want to be involved in every part of your life. They want to dictate what you can and can't do with your fucking body. They racked up an $8 trillion deficit when Trump was in office. They absolutely did. And that is the greatest amount any president has ever tacked on in the history of this country. Is that conservative? Is that even Republican? See, that's what you have to understand. If you vote for Donald Trump, you're not a Republican. You're not a conservative. You're part of a fucking cult. Let's see here. Trump tried to, okay. I do believe Oklahoma, God damn it. I do believe Oklahoma now requires teaching the Bible in school. Yeah. These people will have you believe that this country was started based on Christian policies. This is not true. In fact, if you look at the Constitution and have the ability to read, it's just the opposite. People should have religious freedom, and by shoving Christianity down the throats of people who think other things is contrary to what the Constitution says. All right. Which version of the Bible? The Catholic? Yeah. Lying loudly isn't winning. And that person makes a good point. Donald Trump does what Donald Trump does. He talks loud and constantly. And some people with lesser intellectual capabilities perceive that as power. They don't listen to the content, which is really what you should be looking at. He talks loud and he talks long. I wish somebody who had that same ability was up against Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is weak. He's a coward. He's a bully. And somebody comes up and slaps the taste out of his mouth, it's a whole different story. Joe did not do that tonight, and he should have. I don't know that he's capable of it. They're two totally different people. But at least Joe Biden isn't trying to destroy the country. At least we've got that going for us. Please comment on Trump saying black jobs. He said he got more black people jobs. I'm not sure what you want me to say here. Everything Donald Trump said was a lie. It was a flat out lie. It can be fact checked. It should be fact checked. I'm still voting blue all the way down the ticket. Well, yeah, of course you are. Why would this one debate dictate anything when the only thing you people have maybe have a problem with is that Joe Biden wasn't strong enough? How about what he said? Was there anything you disagreed with what he said? Consider the content and not the optics of it, because we know what the optics are with Donald Trump. It's a fucking shit show. He also said blacks instead of black people. Okay, yeah, that's a semantic, and we can get Donald Trump for his racism all over the place. There's no question Donald Trump is a racist, a misogynist, and an anti-Semite. There's no question about it. And if you can't get that by way he talks and the things he does, well, then you're missing it. Christian says, remember tariffs on Canada, steel and lumber, housing, construction costs skyrocketed. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. There was a period of time when the price of wood and lumber went up ridiculous levels, and there was shortages of it because they couldn't afford it. That's exactly what happens when Donald Trump puts tariffs on. Um, Trump's only policy is revenge. Absolutely. He has no policy. I would dare to ask any Republican, including Donald Trump, what are your policies? What are your platform? They didn't have any in 2020. It was all about trying to make Joe Biden look bad, and it didn't work. They lost. They clearly lost. I love this. We got to get Bernie or we lose. Are you fucking kidding me? Bernie's as old or older than Joe Biden. Bernie's time is done. I like Bernie, but his time is done. And he's too far left. He's not going to get all the Democrats to vote for him. Uh, will fact check make a difference tomorrow for Indies and Republicans on the fence? You're going back to what I said before. You're looking at the optics. Joe Biden wasn't as strong as you wanted him. But let's look at the content of what was said. Everything Joe Biden said was true, and he could back it up with receipts. Everything Donald Trump said was confusing, was unhinged, was going off on tangents. Consider the content. Consider the content of what was said. And if you can do that, there's no question in your mind who would win that situation. This is the problem with politics today. It's become WWE wrestling. Who's got the best costumes? Who's the loudest? Who's the most boisterous? When none of that has anything to do with how we want our government run. And people fall into that all the fucking time. Trump-the-fucks have fallen into it worse than anybody. But when I see Democrats doing that, it frustrates me. It frustrates me because you know better. Biden knew his policies and statistics. Trump had nothing. Exactly. That's my point exactly. If you look at the facts, you look at the content, it was no comparison because Donald Trump didn't answer a single question. He didn't have any kind of data or facts to back up anything he said. And some of the stuff he said was so ridiculous that even Republicans know it's a lie, and they had to kind of wince when they heard him saying that. I love how Trump danced around the question that if he lost, he would accept the outcome. Yeah, he's as much as admitted. He said, well, if it's fair and honest, well, to Donald Trump, unless he wins, it's not fair and honest. He's going to come out after he loses in November and say it was a fake and a hoax. The problem is he tried that dance already in 2020. It didn't work out for him. He's going to be weaker than he is now, or weaker than he was then. And it's just not going to work. Here's the deal. People want to compare Donald Trump of 2016 to 2024. Apples and oranges. 2016, we didn't know anything about Donald Trump. We didn't, it was a risk. They didn't like Hillary Clinton, so they thought we'd try something new. How bad could it be? Well, we found out how bad it could be. And then come 2020, there was a massive amount of voters showing up. And they didn't show up because Joe Biden was a great candidate. They showed up because they were scared to death at the prospect of Donald Trump. becoming president again. So come 2024, you don't think they're going to be even more scared now, given all the things we've seen, having seen January 6th, having seen him overturning Roe v. Wade? It's going to get worse. I don't care about the debate. I was hoping Donald Trump um, would get embarrassed, and he did. He did get embarrassed. I was hoping Joe Biden would be stronger, but he wasn't. Okay, it's a fucking debate. Um, but the fact of the matter is Donald Trump has so much shit hanging over his head. He's not going to know his ass from a hole in the wall. He's got no money. He's not campaigning. He's got to go to court. He's going to get sentenced, and they're probably going to sentence him to some time in jail based on his behavior during the trial and after the trial. People have to discount how disgusted the country is over January 6th. You know, that's the thing with Donald Trump. He will come out and say, everybody believes this. And I think in his mind, he actually believes that everybody does believe that. But the fact of the matter is, the vast majority of the people know what January 6th was, know it was an insurrection. It scares the hell out of them. And they know Donald Trump was responsible for it. You take the insurrection, you take overturning Roe v. Wade, the 34 convictions. This does not make a good candidate. All right. Let's see here. I think Biden didn't stumble. He was dumbfounded by the lies and exaggeration. You know, to a certain extent, I believe you. But you got to have a comeback. He was probably amazed by the things that Donald Trump had the audacity to say. I'm sure the people that trained him and put him and prepared him did not want him saying half of the shit he did. And I'm sure Joe Biden was surprised by him being that stupid to say those things. But that doesn't make it okay for Joe Biden not to have a proper response. He needed to be stronger. He had to come closer to matching Donald Trump's energy in order to be perceived as a fighter and somebody who's equal in this competition. All right. All MB, let's see here. That's tough keeping up with these. There's so many coming in. Trump should have been fact checked tonight. Yeah, absolutely. He should have been fact checked. And the fact that another media outlet allowed him to say the most outrageous, most egregious thing is is a travesty by our media. And we have a lot of problems with our media. There is no question. Many of the problems we have in this country is the way that this media misinforms people. If you vote for Biden after tonight, you're brainwashed. Yeah, if you vote for Biden, you're brainwashed. But if you vote for Trump, you're brilliant. Sorry, that ain't. Trump nailed it 2024. No, he didn't. Donald Trump can't win. I'm still telling you this, regardless of what the debate did. Donald Trump cannot win the election in 2024. It's just not possible. There's no path for him. Don't tell me about the polls. The polls are always wrong and they're run by people with a lot of money that have fucking agendas. Nobody gives a shit about the polls. Take a look at the fundraising. Remember what happened in the fundraising? Joe Biden had a record amount of $25 million. 2 days later, Donald Trump comes out and says, well, I got $50 million. And everybody was so excited about that. But then later on, a couple of weeks later, we find out, well, that was a lie. He didn't really collect $50 million. If Donald Trump was collecting as much money as he says he's collecting, why isn't he advertising? I mean, Joe Biden's got $50 million going into advertising in the swing states. Does Donald Trump? No. No, he doesn't. It's all going into his legal fund. He's spending $5 million a month just to stay out of fucking jail. All right, continuing on. People already know who they're voting for. Yeah, I have a feeling that is the case. Somebody also said if it was between Trump and a ham sandwich, the ham sandwich would win, and that's pretty much true. Again, whether you like Joe Biden or don't like Joe Biden, the prospects are better with Joe Biden. With Donald Trump, we know what we're capable of, what's capable of happening with Donald Trump in. When he was president, it was an absolute disaster. I love how he kept referring to Afghanistan and how Joe Biden failed in getting the people out of Afghanistan. Well, I tell you what, from George W. Bush up through Obama, up through Donald Trump, they all had the opportunity to pull us out of Afghanistan. It should have been done decades before, but not one president had the courage to do it except Joe Biden. It had to be done. And there could be some collateral damage, and that's unfortunate. You talk about 13 people that died in Afghanistan. That is tragic. But how about the million people that died of fucking COVID? That's kind of tragic too. And that is on Donald Trump. Um, I got some people coming on and say, I want to be on with you. It's not going to happen. I'm recording this for the podcast. There's no way they would hear you. And unless I know you, I'm not pulling you on here. When I first started doing lives, I'd pull somebody on just to be a nice guy, and they were fucking dipshits. And then I had to get rid of them. It's just going to be me. As much as that might be boring to some people, that's the way it's going to fucking be. Um, and I want to remind folks too, I do the TikToks every day, as you know, but I also do a podcast every night, the Rational Boomer Podcast. Now, this live will be the podcast for tomorrow because I really enjoy having the input from listeners. I read emails, I have listeners as guests, and we talk about the things that happened the day previously. And this particular live is going to be the podcast for tomorrow. And then we'll have another podcast the day after that. Sometimes we even have a couple of podcasts in a day. We cover a lot of things. And if you want to check out the podcast, I encourage you to do that. And you can do that by going to rationalboomer.com. There are all kinds of links there to get to TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, the audio version of the podcast, and the video version of the podcast on YouTube. So there's all kinds of ways to get it. Check it out. You don't have to listen every day, but give it a shot. Let's see here. Taylor says, I feel so disappointed. I turned off my TV because they were trashing Biden. I choose to listen to you because I dislike hearing all the fighting. I admire Biden for dealing with bullies his entire life. Corporate media is biased. All those are good points. The thing about it is for all too long, we've counted on the politicians to do our bidding, to take care of us. And what we found out as of late, well, not as of late in the last 10 years, is they aren't doing our bidding. Right now, the Republicans are the most dangerous. They are a dumpster fire. So I got to work in conjunction with the Democrats in order to get rid of the Republicans. But let me tell you something, the Democrats have their problems too. After the election in November, assuming Joe wins the presidency, the Democrats get the House and the Senate, our fight isn't over. We got to continue to push. See, this is the problem we have in this country. We are in this position because we have been apathetic for decades. We just lay back and say, let them do whatever they're going to do. They must know what they're doing. And this is where we are. We've got to change the paradigm a little bit in this country. The people, have to fight back and have to insist that they do what we want them to do as opposed to what they want. And that's whether it's Republican or Democrat. Now, if we were dealing with just a normal Republican and a normal Democrat, I'd be fighting against both of them. But we've got a party in the Republicans that are dangerous to this country. They want to overthrow the government. They want to undermine democracy. They want to infringe on elections. And that can't stand. So we've got to fight against that. But once we get it back to a stable level, we need to fight for all of us as opposed to saying, this is my team. They can do whatever they want. I don't feel that way. I've never considered myself a Democrat or a Republican. I support people. It's like the Israeli Hamas thing. I don't take either side. My only concern is the innocent people that end up being the collateral damage, regardless of which side you happen to support. There has to come a time when the people fight back against whoever is going against us. And I don't care if it's Democrat or Republican. Cat Eye says we need to stand up and fight for our rights. We don't want a dictator. Well, no, of course not. Unfortunately, there is a certain faction of people out there that do want a dictator. I don't know what the fuck they're thinking, but they think that's a better thing. They want their agenda. They want all their guns. They want abortion illegal. They want control over people that don't think like them. But where they make the mistake is if they get that, there's going to be control over them. They think, well, they think like me, we'll be good. That's not the case. They will control you too. Um, I love these Republicans coming out here thinking they can insult me. Bitch, I've been married 40 years and I have two adult male children. I am immune to insults. I've taken them all my life and I don't give a fuck. But if you want to insult contest, step on up and I'll participate with you. I'll be your huckleberry, as they say. Okay. Now this happens every time I do a live. It gets to the point where it's been about an hour and they say, we detected inactivity. And they give me this little puzzle that I have to put in the right spot in order to maintain the show. It's fucking ridiculous. Um, the idea that there's inactivity is absurd. Okay, I got the puzzle piece, verification completed, and now we can continue. Someone said just ignore the trolls like their parents did. Yeah. Or like Donald Trump's parents did. I don't think his mom or his dad liked him. Donald Trump tried really hard to win. And, to be honest with you, if you say Joe Biden was weaker than normal, I'll agree with you there. But so was Donald Trump. He didn't come off as strong as he would normally do. He was louder than Joe Biden, but he was kind of weak too, and he was really scattered, and he couldn't put together uh, a single thought. What's this? It's okay to do the puzzle and keep going. Yeah, I did. I've been channeling you a while, talking to my people. Yeah, thank you. All right. Now, I quit watching after 10 minutes. My anxiety was too high. I get that. I can't watch Fox News. And I was getting a little anxious at first because I really thought, oh shit, Joe's gonna sink here. But over time he got better and more clear. But let's make no mistake, Joe is 82 years old. That's too old to be the president. But as compared to Donald Trump, he's the only choice. The only saving grace is people saw how much a liar Trump is and how he is unfit. Yeah, absolutely. If you're looking at content, you can't help but say, Jesus Christ, who is this clown? Biden is definitely more professional and has been more productive than Trump. There's no question about it. Absolutely no question. Let's talk about infrastructure. Every week it was a running joke. Oh, it's infrastructure week, but Donald Trump never accomplished an infrastructure bill, and he had control in the House and the Senate. Joe Biden got it done. And with that getting done, there are people all over the country making money. There's an influx of money in different communities, and that's a positive thing for the economy, and it's showing up in the economy. I'm glad I didn't watch the debate. It was predictable. I don't know that it was predictable. Maybe I was hoping against hope that Joe Biden would come out stronger. And maybe he's just not capable of that. And that's fine. Um, you look okay. Let's see here. You look like someone with strong opinions. I love how you try to insult me. You are some dumb motherfuckers. You think you're good at this. Like I say, come on the Rational Boomer podcast. We'll see how your comments work there. It was hard to watch. He did get better, hard to watch, but I couldn't look away. Yeah, it was like a train wreck, and we kind of expected that. With Donald Trump the way he is, it couldn't have gone well. The fact that they cut off the mic and there was no audience, I think that was a good thing. Donald Trump had to be shut up, but he still did what he did. You know, he would be asked a question and he was totally distracted like an ADD child. He didn't answer the question and he had to go strike back at Joe. That shows who he is. He can't focus on anything. He can't read, he can't focus on anything, and everything is performative with Donald Trump. There is no substance to this fucking clown. Juan says all we have to do is use common sense and facts, um, and defend democracy. Yeah, it's as simple as that. The choice between Donald Trump and Joe Biden is, do you like democracy or do you want to get rid of democracy? It's as simple as that, unfortunately. I'm never watching CNN again. To be honest with you, I've quit watching CNN altogether. I never watch the media to get the stories. I get the stories, but I never take what they say about the stories. I get the stories and then I dig through sources that I trust and find out about what's going on. But CNN has been a joke as of late. I don't watch CNN. I won't watch CNN. I did in this case because of the debate, but after this, now I have no interest in them. All right. Biden did what he felt. You have to take into consideration that Biden still. All right. He says you have to take into consideration that Biden still has a very experienced mind. Yeah. Well, that was one of the troubles with Donald Trump when he took the job. He didn't know how the game was played. And in every situation before, he was bigger than the game he was in. He had control, he had yes men, he had money, or he had leverage. Once he got into government, he was over his head. But he wasn't smart enough to say, oh shit, I'm over my head. I've got to do something to acclimate myself to government. He decided to force his will on everything, and clearly it didn't work. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been impeached twice, indicted 4 times, and convicted 34 times. I don't watch any cable news anymore. You know what? To be honest with you, I don't watch much of it because it's all kind of a joke. Even the left side media doesn't give you the whole story, or they do something like what we saw tonight, let clowns come up and just spew shit and not question them at all. I don't know where they've got their journalism degrees, if they have them, but that is an egregious failing for anybody who claims to be a journalist. Ron says, I don't care how Biden sounds. I'd rather have a normal person. Cher says, what do you think will happen now? Well, you think this is going to change everything? No, of course not. Donald Trump's getting sentenced in 2 weeks to 34 felony charges. He's still running out of money. He's still going to say his crazy shit. This doesn't change anything, to be perfectly honest with you. It maybe didn't turn out the way we wanted it to turn out, but it wasn't disastrous because Joe Biden got his message out. Donald Trump proved to be an unhinged, crazy motherfucker, a batshit crazy motherfucker. So it doesn't change anything. And this is why I get so upset with people. Oh my God, it didn't go like I was. The world's going to fall in, or the sky's going to fall. That's not how it works. This is a long time. Think about every scandal that Donald Trump has ever committed. He commits one and then another one comes down the line and you forget about the first one. That's the one failing in this country. People have short memories. They don't remember shit. And keep in mind, this particular debate is the earliest any debate in presidential history has ever been done. The earliest before this is September. Now, there's supposed to be another debate in September. I would hope against hope that Joe Biden prepares for it better and more properly. And then if he does, then that's what they'll remember. They don't remember this. They should remember the unhinged nature of Donald Trump in this debate, but they won't remember that either. Miserable Weaver, you're helping me calm down so much right now. Thank you. Well, yeah, calm down. People always say that to me. You help me calm down. Listen, you don't worry about shit you can't control. You just do the best you can with what you have and expect the best to happen. Too many people worry about, oh, it's a disaster, the world's going to fall in. But here's the one thing I will tell you about that. All those times you thought the world was going to end, that the sky was going to fall, guess what? It never happened. It never happened. You wasted all that time worrying about it. Just keep doing what you do, trust the process, and trust what's best for us and that we're going to get it. You don't worry about that. What charges can Trump that will keep him from being able to run? Well, people ask me this all the time. How can he run for president if he's been convicted of a crime? I'll tell you why. Very simply, because in the Constitution, it doesn't say anywhere that a convicted felon can't run for the presidency. That's why he can run. That's the only reason he could run. Should there be a law that says he can't run? Absolutely. But it's not in the Constitution. So that's what they go off. And frankly, when it comes down to November with Joe Biden running against Donald Trump, I've often said I don't know that Donald Trump will be the nominee because he's got too much pressure hanging over his head and he's not a healthy guy. But the best possible scenario is that Donald Trump is Joe Biden's opponent. Because as like I said, in 2020, people didn't vote for Joe Biden because he's a great candidate. They voted against Donald Trump because they were scared to death. And guess what? Those same people are even more scared now because of what Donald Trump has done and what the prospects are if he becomes president again. That's the thing. Donald Trump is going to lose in November. I've said it all along. I'll say it again. He's going to lose, and he's probably going to lose huge. And it's going to affect the down ballots too. The Republicans are embracing Roe v. Wade. 75% of the country support Roe v. Wade. Please tell me how somebody wins an election when they're going against the wishes of 75% of the people. Now, I'll tell you this about Trump LaFox too. They are going to try to crow. I said this too before. I said, no matter how the debate goes, the Republicans are going to say, oh, we won, we won. Well, that's well and good. You can say that all you want, but guess what? You keep losing court cases. You keep getting convicted of crimes. You keep losing defamation cases. You owe $500 million because you're a fucking idiot. So don't tell me about winning. They're going to grab every little bit of win that they think they can get. They'll exaggerate it and they'll talk about this shit forever. Important thing is you don't listen to the shit. You don't believe it. There are so many things out there that people get worried about. And I always say, where did you hear that? And they can't tell me where it came from. And I'll tell you where it came from. It came from some Republican narrative that threw it out in the ether. It's bouncing around. Somebody picks it up and they go, oh, this must be real. When we talk about polls, when we talk about the lies that Donald Trump spews, his tactic is this. I'm going to lie. I'm going to keep lying until people believe it. So if you're one of those people that buy into the lies because you've heard it over and over again, you're the one being played for a fool. And if you're okay with that, that's your business. But I would expect Democrats to be smarter than that. All right. Great Captain says, you're not voting for Joe, you're voting for his candidate. You know, I'll be honest with you, I've said this too. This election isn't about Joe Biden, it's about democracy. And all I want Joe Biden to do is get through the election, get inaugurated, and then if he wanted to step down or something happens, I'm fine with it. Because once that happens, we are on the right road to saving democracy. Once the Republicans take any kind of power, then we're in trouble. So whether Joe Biden finishes out his next term, I don't really care. I'd be surprised if he did because you're going to be 86 years old. And if that means Kamala Harris becomes president, I'm good with that. A lot of people talk shit about Kamala Harris, but you know why they do? Because they're racist and they are misogynist. People who speak out negatively about Kamala Harris can only because they don't like women. And I've told you the Republicans are at war against women. And since we know the Republicans are racist, the last thing they want is a black woman in there. That's the reason they talk about Kamala Harris the way they do. But take a look at her record. When she was running for president in 2016, I thought, hey, this is a sharp lady. I could go with that. The only failing with the Trump or the Biden administration is they should have showcased her more, proven that she was a strong person, a strong candidate, and could be president. They could have done more with that, and it would help them immensely in the election. Not that they need the help, but that's what they should have done. Yes, Donald sounded like he was on speed. Yeah, I think he was on something. We know that Donald Trump, in fact, does do drugs, whether it be Adderall or cocaine or whatever he does. And people will say, how do you know that? You're just saying that. Well, he was required to take a drug test for his probationary officer, and he refused. I don't even know how he can refuse. Apparently, that drug test has to be done between now and his sentencing, which is 2 weeks away. So when that drug test is taken, that will be taken into consideration in his sentencing. The fact that he refused it, the fact that he will probably fail it when he takes it, that's going to come into play. The fact that he had no respect for the court, that he violated the gag order. Donald Trump has a real chance of being put in prison, not only for the 34 felony convictions, but also his violations of the gag order. Somebody says, will that be public info? That's a good question. I don't know if it will be public info, but we'll know kind of what happened there when we hear the sentence. Hopefully Dr. Johnson/Jackson doesn't get to give it. Yeah, Ronnie Jackson is a joke. I mean, he is a whacked out Trump humper. And to suggest he's a legitimate doctor is like saying Dr. Phil's a real doctor. All right. I just want to say thanks to the moderators out there doing a great job keeping the Trump-la-fucks at bay. I appreciate it. McDougal says Republicans are a dumpster fire. Democrats are the only choice for now. Yep, that's really it. Again, I'll just say it. Do you want to keep democracy or do you want to get rid of democracy? If you want to get rid of democracy, vote for the Republicans because that's what they're attempting to do every fucking day. They do it in front of our faces. They're very blunt and bold and blatant about it. If you like democracy and want to keep our rights, well, then you vote for the Democrats, meaning Joe Biden. You may not like Joe Biden. You may have to hold your nose, but here's the deal. If you vote for Joe Biden in 2028, you'll have an opportunity to vote for the president you want. Joe will be done and you can get a younger person. But if you vote for Donald Trump's going to get in the presidency and then he's not going to want to leave and then give it to his kid or whatever. If you want the chance to get what you want, you've got to vote for Joe Biden. You may not like the path you have to go to get there, but at least there's a path. With Donald Trump, there is no path to getting what you want. All right, let's see here. There's a lot of you motherfuckers out there. Trump is going to win. He is looking really good. Okay. I'm getting some people reported me. What Trump the fuck? She getting scared? You getting scared? Great Captain, remind me, let me know if things are looking a little busy out there because I usually like to end it before the Trumplefucks lose their shit. On my TikToks, people will note that I block every Trumplefuck because I want to take their voice away from them. All they spew is bullshit, and I'm not going to allow them to do that on my platform. Almost, yeah. Let's just say, God damn. You might want to end now. Ha ha, mass reporting. Great Captain, I'll acknowledge your knowledge about what's going on here. And we've been doing this for hour and 15 minutes or so. So let's wrap things up. Let's do that. I appreciate you all joining me on this live. If you didn't get to hear all of it, check out the Rational Boomer podcast. This will be the podcast and you'll get an opportunity to listen again. Thank you very much. Don't worry about Joe Biden. Biden's going to win in November. No question about it. So you have yourself a great day and we'll be talking all the time on TikToks and on the podcast. I forgot. I'm trying to end this TikTok and I forgot I'm still here on the podcast. I apologize. Um, wow. I feel like Joe Biden here, not remembering I still have the podcast going. I apologize for that. Anyway, what I'm going to say about the debate, people are going to get upset. I'm reading things that say um, that Democrats are in panic mode, and you should not be in panic mode. Did it go exactly the way we wanted? No, it didn't. But the fact of the matter is, it did what it did. It's over now. We got to move on to the next thing. Joe Biden gave the facts. When he finally got his feet under him, it went better for him. It still wasn't up to the point where I would have hoped it would have been, but it went better for him. Um, I would hope that in the next debate, they adjust some things, his team prepares him better, or just don't do it if Joe Biden can't handle it. Um, but this, people say, how does this change everything? This is a fucking debate. It changes nothing. It doesn't change the fact that Donald Trump has 34 convictions and that he's going to be sentenced in 2 weeks. It doesn't change the fact that Donald Trump is going fucking broke and doesn't have money to campaign. It doesn't change all the shit that's going to come out between now and then for the election. I still believe that Joe Biden is going to be the candidate unless the unforeseen happens, unless Donald Trump or Joe Biden keel over. They're going to be the candidates. The idea of bringing somebody else in is kind of ridiculous. It's a reactionary a thing by people. Oh my God, Joe wasn't strong enough, so we got to bring in Gavin Newsom. That's not going to happen. You may hope for it. You may think it's the wise choice, but it's not the wise choice. Why would you change in the middle of the stream? As much as you may not like the way Joe Biden does things, he's still been the most productive president in the history of this country. That speaks to something. And in this debate, as much as Donald Trump may have been louder or even sounding stronger, everything he said was batshit crazy. Everything he said has probably got the Republicans freaking out because he said some things he shouldn't have said that are going to come back to haunt him, things that are going to end up in commercials, pounded in the media, making him look foolish. Now, Joe Biden was slow and he stuttered some, which we knew he'd do, but everything he said was a fact. Everything he said was positive. He had receipts for all those things. So if you want to gauge this debate on optics, well, then you can go ahead and do that. But if you want to base it on facts, which is what's important when the next person becomes president, then there's no question who won this thing in that regard. Too many people are looking at this as a professional fight or a WWE wrestling match. The louder guy with the louder clothes, he wins. But who really knew what they were doing? I kind of hate that this happened this way because every day I get people coming to me scared to death that Donald Trump is going to win. And I have to calm them and talk to them and make them feel calm again. This is just going to make it work. You motherfuckers made this job harder for me, or at least Joe Biden did. He's not my first choice as president, but he's who we got. And as I said, on the TikTok Live. It's a choice between democracy or not. Democracy or authoritarianism. Which do you want? If you want authoritarianism, go ahead, vote for Donald Trump. But if you want to maintain democracy and still have some freedom in this country, you got to vote for Joe Biden, whether you like him or not. All right. We're going to wrap things up for the Rational Boomer podcast. I want to thank you for humoring me and allowing me to do the TikTok and turning it into a podcast because I'm a lazy bastard and killing two birds with one stone. I hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.